War makes enemies. That is the rule. Americans kill Germans. Germans kill Americans. It is simple. It is brutal. And by 1945, the world had drowned in blood following these rules. But on a cold morning in May, high in the Austrian Alps, the rules were broken. If you looked through a pair of binoculars at Castle Itter, your brain would refuse to believe what you saw. You would see an American tank commander, gritty and exhausted. And standing right next to him, checking the perimeter, was a Nazi officer. They weren't pointing guns at each other. They were sharing cigarettes. They were sharing fear. Because coming up the hill was a monster. A fully armed SS Panzer division, fueled by hate, with orders to leave no one alive. Inside the castle, a group of terrified French politicians. Defending them, a suicide squad of Americans and Wehrmacht soldiers united by a single desperate promise. We live together, or we die together. This isn't just a battle. This is the twilight zone of World War II. Welcome to the story of the impossible alliance. Let's step inside the walls. Castle Itter wasn't a fortress anymore. It was a golden cage, a luxury prison for the ghosts of France, former prime ministers, generals, legends. Men who used to run the world were now huddled in stone rooms, waiting for the executioner. By May 1945, the Third Reich was a headless chicken, thrashing in its death throes. Hitler was dead. Berlin was burning. But the SS were not surrendering. They were angry. They were vengeful. The guards at Itter had fled, leaving the prisoners in a terrifying limbo. Imagine the silence in those hallways. The French prisoners looked out the windows. They didn't see rescuers. They saw the forests moving. The SS were closing the net. They knew what was coming. A final massacre to wipe away the witnesses of the Reich. They needed a miracle. But miracles were in short supply in 1945. So they sent a mechanic on a bicycle into the war zone to beg for help. The mechanic didn't find a saint. He found Major Josef Gangl. Gangl was a German hero, a decorated Wehrmacht officer. But looking at his shattered country, he realized he had been fighting for the devil. He wanted to save his men. He wanted to save his soul. When he heard about the prisoners, he knew this was his redemption. He drove to the American lines under a white flag. There, he met the most American man in Europe, Captain Jack Lee. Lee was rough. He was loud. He commanded a tank named Besotten Jenny. Imagine the scene. The dust swirling, the engines idling. A Nazi major looks at an American captain and says, "Help me save them." Lee stared at him. He could have shot Gangl right there. It would have been easy. But Lee saw something in the German's eyes. Not a Nazi, just a soldier. "Okay," Lee said. "Let's go kill some SS." It was a convoy straight out of a fever dream. The American tank roared in front. Behind it, trucks filled with German soldiers. As they drove up the mountain, they passed dead bodies and burning wreckage. They arrived at the castle. The heavy wooden gates slammed shut behind them. The trap was set. They were inside. And the SS were outside. And there was no way out. Night fell. It was the longest night of their lives. American GIs and German soldiers sat by small fires, cleaning their weapons. They didn't speak the same language, but they understood the nod, the shared cigarette, the look of dread. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and surrounded. Then came the dawn, and with it, the thunder. Boom! The first shell from an 88mm anti-tank gun screamed through the air. It hit Captain Lee's tank. The Besotten Jenny didn't just explode. It died, screaming. The metal twisted. The flames licked the stone walls. Their heavy support was gone in seconds. The SS swarmed the hill like locusts. Machine gun fire raked the battlements. Stone chips flew like shrapnel, cutting faces and hands. "Fire!" Captain Lee screamed. And for the first time in history, the crack of American M1 Garands mixed perfectly with the sharp snap of German Kar 98 rifles, side by side, brother by brother, fighting the darkness. Inside, the old French politicians refused to hide. They grabbed weapons. 70-year-old men firing blindly into the smoke, refusing to go down without a fight. It was chaotic. It was loud. It was glorious. But bravery isn't bulletproof. The ammunition was running low. Click, click. Empty magazines hit the floor. The SS were getting closer. You could hear their boots on the gravel. You could hear their screams of rage. In the chaos, former Prime Minister Paul Reynaud stood exposed. He was a sitting duck. An SS sniper adjusted his scope. He exhaled. But Major Gangl saw it. He didn't think. He didn't hesitate. He didn't calculate the politics. He ran. He threw himself in front of the Frenchman. The bullet didn't miss. Major Gangl fell to the cold stone of the courtyard. The life drained from his eyes. A German officer died taking a bullet meant for a French leader while defending an American position. If that isn't poetic justice, I don't know what is. Lee saw Gangl fall. His jaw tightened. "Hold the line," he roared. "Nobody comes through." But they were done. The SS were setting up explosives at the gate. Captain Lee checked his pistol. He prepared to die. The explosion was imminent. The end was seconds away. But then, the ground shook. Not from a bomb, but from an engine. A low, guttural roar that grew louder and louder. From the tree line behind the SS, a machine gun opened up, the distinctive heavy thud, thud, thud of an American .50 caliber. Reinforcements. The 122nd Infantry Regiment had arrived. They hit the SS from behind like a sledgehammer. The fanatics, so focused on the castle, crumbled. They broke. They ran. The smoke cleared. Captain Lee walked out of the battered gate. He looked at the bodies. He looked at the survivors. The French prisoners wept. The Americans lit cigarettes with trembling hands. The surviving Germans lowered their rifles. They had done the impossible. History books like to paint in black and white. Good guys here, bad guys there. But Castle Itter teaches us that the world is painted in gray. Major Gangl is buried in Austria today. He is honored as a hero of the Austrian resistance. He proved that even in the darkest uniform, a human heart can still beat. This battle was small, but its lesson is giant. When the world falls apart, labels don't matter. Flags don't matter. What matters is who is standing next to you in the fire. What would you have done? Could you have trusted your enemy with your life? Let us know in the comments. This is strange but true. Remember, history is stranger than fiction. See you in the next video.